Empower People works for disadvantaged women who are victims or potential victims of violence, including domestic violence, honor crimes, killing and trafficking or other type of slavery, and provides them shelter, proper counseling, legal support and other help required. The community work involves creating awareness and conducting livelihood programs.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anjali Bose, and today Empower People has organized a webinar on the topic social construct of gender in the society. Gender being a very important factor and a very important word in our society, it has many meanings, and thus who better it be than our young minds to talk about it and express their views and perspective on it. So for today, our guests are Katyani Yadav.
Hi, I'm Katyani.
Hi, Katyani. How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I am absolutely fine. Thank you so much for coming here today. Our next guest is Mr. Asesh Chowdhury. Hi, Asesh. How are you?
Hey Anjali, thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much. Empower People is very happy to have you here today and to have a wonderful, fruitful conversation and discussion on the very important topic that we are going to talk about. So before going or jumping on to back to the topic, let's have a little bit of introduction about who you are and what are you going to do, so that our audience is familiar with the panelist that has joined us today. So Katyani, let's start with you. Kindly give the audience an introduction.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. My name is Katyani Yadav. I'm from Meerut, and right now I'm doing bachelor's in history honors. And if it comes to describing myself, it's kind of a difficult thing as of at the moment, because I'm still venturing into things. So yeah, that's about it.
All right. Thank you so much, Katyani, for joining us today. Ashish, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience who's watching?
Yes, of course. So, hi everyone. Very good evening to everyone. And my name is Asesh Chowdhury, and I'm pursuing my master's in sociology. And I'm from Shillong, and I'm doing my master's from Amity right now. And in future also, I plan to pursue my doctorate in sociology.
Wonderful. So thank you so much once again, Katyani and Ashish, for joining us and giving us your time for this amazing discussion that we're going to have. So talking about the topic and the title that we have today, which is the social construct of gender in the society, I think this is one thing that has been in trend. We talk about trends. So I think that we can start with what gender is and what you believe that gender is. Katyani, will start with you.
Okay. Gender, how do I define it? If you're being politically correct, even defining gender is kind of wrong. Gender for me has always been an issue that does not associate with either male or female or something like that. And I mean, when it comes to really expressing yourself, or the social construct that we are in, that if you're of this gender, you're meant to do this. If you're of this gender, you're meant to do that. I remember in my first semester, I did my research paper on homosexuality in India. And for that, I did a survey and I asked people what's the difference between gender and sex. And to my surprise, most of the people were not aware of it. They thought the gender and the sex, they kind of have some correlation between them, but they were not aware that sex is something that you're born with and gender is something that is society has, has thrown up on you, the roles that you have to pursue. This went on. I asked more people, and I was getting shocked. More and more people were not aware of the full form of LGBTQ plus, and they thought, even discussing about women is kind of a thing that you create fuss about. Okay, like first of all, I totally forgot. I really want to appreciate Ashish for being here, because when you're discussing about gender and being a woman, we get biased, okay, and men are should be the at the should be the front runner for this thing, that they should be talking about gender equality, because what's the point of having a meeting of women talking about the same thing, and when the other gender is not there to even acknowledge it or even to address that.
Absolutely.
So that is very important for me. Yeah.
Absolutely, Katyani. This thing that the difference between sex and gender, a lot of people still do not know about it. And we have forms in which in some of the forms, legal forms, we have sex written, and for some of the forms we have gender written. So
Yeah.
that is itself is a kind of discrimination that you're putting, especially when people don't know about it. It's
Yeah.
not right that when you put about it. So I believe that yes, people are supposed to know the difference. One is biological and one is socially
Yeah.
constructed. So yeah, Ashish, what are your views on it? What is gender for you?
So, being a sociologist, we study gender almost every day. It's there in almost every subjects. We have gender studies, we have women's studies, we have studies on feminism, radical feminism, liberal feminism.
Yeah.
So I've come, to like this subject and grown quite close to it. And the first thing that we study in sociology is what is sex and what is gender, like Katyani has already told us.
Yeah.
So most people don't know it, and it is a surprise that there is
Yeah.
a difference. There's a stark difference between sex and gender. And today's topic, it highlights this point that this is a social construction. This has nothing to do with who you are as an individual. This has nothing to do with your biology. This is a construction of society. And for this, I would like to give a historical context. So in India, I'm giving an example of India because the oldest civilizations, the Indus Valley, the Harappan Valley civilizations of human beings were found in the Indian mainland. So during the early Vedic ages, that time, as most people know, that it was a very much an egalitarian society. The highest position at that time, like now it might be because we live in a materialistic society, the highest position might be the richest man. But at that time, it was of a Maharishi. And now studying in Delhi, you know about the colleges Gargi, Maitri. So have you ever wondered, like, who are they? They were Maharishis of that time.
Yeah.
So you can see that at that time, that was the highest position in society. And it was shared by men and women both.
Yeah.
So where did we go wrong from there? How did this degradation come about? And how did this construction of gender come about? So after this historical context, now we come in a society where we look at the Western countries, and
Yeah.
we may think that we may try to copy the Western model, but the highest incidences of rape, molestation is in the Western countries. In a survey in 2013, it was Sweden. Like the Scandinavian countries, they are at the top of everything. Their education, lifestyle, quality of life. But where did they go wrong from there? Then we go to the Middle East, where, I mean, it's very difficult to talk about it. Women, they don't have an individuality,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and it's really sad to see. But there's a trend in India. When you go to villages, uh, suppose you go to someone's house, the woman covers her face when she comes to bring you tea or water.
Yeah.
Why? But this trend is not only in India. You have the same thing in Islam as well. You have the burqa in other places in Mongolia. Peop Women usually cover their face, and I don't know what is this phobia. So now, speaking it's strictly in terms of sociology, when Talcott Parson, he talks about social systems, like society is a system, and all our actions are directed towards that system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how is this construction of gender, what is it doing for the system apart from perpetuating the rule of patriarchy? What is it doing? So I
Okay.
think that would be my beginning statement.
Yeah.
Yes.
To his point, actually, when I was really studying about gender, and I was also venturing into patriarchy, uh, there is no exact date or the the name of inventor who invented patriarchy. To us, what we know is that it's a thing done by sociobiologists. That's what they did in Darwinism. Okay, he said that according to the strengths and the capabilities of the sexes, the roles are decided. Okay, he did not say that he supports it or he wants it to propagate or something like that, but that's how it morphed into this biological order. Then we started deciding that because of the strength of the male, they should take care of the female because they have to reproduce. Okay, that's how the competition began. Okay, the because females had to choose their mates, so men automatically decided to compete with each other, and we see that today as well. In films and all, the richer you are, the more chances you have to have a beautiful girl or something like that. We still follow that, and even whatever that we do is for the opposite sex. We're always the whole gist of being a human being is to procreate, is to make babies. That's what we do. That's our natural instinct. And when it comes to the social norms that we have, it also goes on nurturing. uh,
Absolutely.
you are a baby. Okay, the baby does not know what his or her gender is. Okay, does not know what to do. 6 months after the baby is born, what do? We put, if it's a girl, we put pink toys, your Barbie dolls, you play with that. If it's a boy, there's blue things, there's cars, robots, and that's what they are nurturing into. That's their environment. And if from the beginning I keep on telling them, see, you're a girl, you're supposed to behave this way, and you're a boy, you're supposed to behave this way. So, and later in life, now that we are evolving, we are teaching ourselves. Suddenly, I come to you and I tell you, whatever that you've been learning entire your entire life is wrong. You're not supposed to treat women that way. That will startle men. It will startle me. If someone would tell me that whatever that we've been doing is the wrong thing, you're not supposed to behave that way. So it really does go on the what your parents do and how you are brought up, because these are the values that you carry forward, and if you're not taught about it, obviously, uh, this is called personalization in psychology, that when you accept some things and you totally ignore those things which you do not know about. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think about it. Yeah.
Yes, very beautifully explained and a very beautifully statement open for the discussion. And both Ashish and Katyani both spoke about that there was no existence of patriarchy. Nobody got that word, or it wasn't a law
Yeah.
that that you have to be patriarchal. But this was from the ancient times, that the guys were the ones who had to go for hunting, and the women were supposed to take care of the house. And
Yeah.
although at that time the gender disparity was not decided, but since it became like that and women started taking care of the children and the
Yeah.
household, and men started going out and hunting, so they were always known as the dominant power, and the female as the suppressed one, because
Yeah.
they didn't get a chance to actually go out
Exactly.
and hunt.
It
So
was
yeah, then
basically, yeah, a menticide. It was a
yeah,
menticide because the women also succumbed to it. They also started believing, okay, we're supposed to do this. We're not supposed to go out or
exactly,
do
yes.
something. And until the feminist movement and all that started to come on after the World War II. Uh, that's when women started to realize that we're not just housewives. We are not just meant to stay at home. And if you're looking for exceptions, then you go and study Egyptian civilization. You'll find that women were totally ruling over there. And yes, I agree that they followed polytheism. There were many gods, not just women, but women did have some superiority over there. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. So, completely agreeing with that uh, fact, and, moving on with the discussion, we spoke about that how women did not oppress, they were the oppressed and the suppressed class, and they did not fight for it. They did not say no. And my teacher once told me while she was teaching that women are the ones who don't want to remove the boots from their shoulders. So there
Yeah.
has to be a reason of why they do not want to remove them. And like Katyani strongly pointed it out, that it's the nurturement that we get from our homes, and
Yeah.
we start and we grow up. So absolutely. So how do you think that this entire process actually was carry forward? Because now we have a lot of genders, like the, like you spoke about the LGBTQA plus. There are a lot of genders which are obviously a socially constructed area. So how do you think that all of these took place from the historical times to the modern time to the present time right now? What do you think are the psychological facts or the sociological fact that pushed people that maybe you should go and find out more things about it, and this is not the end? So, Ashish, we'll start with you.
Yeah, of course. And one more thing I would like to point out is that this socialization process of grouping them into genders, it not
Yeah.
only begins when the baby is born, it begins before that, when they have
Yeah.
the baby shower.
Yeah.
Uh-huh,
It
absolutely.
starts from there.
Yeah.
And when we talk about how this perpetuation of gender came about, I feel there's one word to describe it, and that is power. So you may ask me how power. See, power is it is sort of an intoxication. It is something you get
Yeah.
addicted to. So when this thing started, that when people were hunters and gatherers, and women stayed at home, so somehow the men, they had a feeling of power, that we are bringing in the food, so we deserve more attention, maybe we deserve more power. So this power got perpetuated. And why I say power is that you can see throughout society. When you talk about Petrim Sorokin, he talks about the circulation of elites,
Yeah.
but this circulation has been only you know it has come down to only male domination. And if you talk about Hindu society also, why do you think the Brahmins, they had so much power? Well, they also developed rules, they developed regulations, they developed norms. And what happened? They had superiority. And this is what happens with patriarchy as well. The more power one gains, you don't want to let go of it. I mean, if you have so much power, why would you want to let go of it? And I
Absolutely.
feel this is the reason why this thing gets keeps on getting perpetuated. And when you say that the feminist movement, it started in the 1900s, but it was only
Yeah.
after the Second World War that women started to
Yeah.
gain rights. They didn't have right to vote.
Absolutely.
Forget about all these things. Women were considered as property, as object. I
Yeah.
remember studying this thing that in Germany, even after the Second World War, I think it was still the 1960s, I think during the second wave of feminism, that in Germany, the husband still had the right to sell their wives. So some way we did go very wrong with this. I mean, this power hungry nature of patriarchy, we went very wrong with this. And after we've come into civilizations, maybe after the 1800s, or maybe during the 1700s, after the French revolutions, maybe even before that, after the Dark Ages, when it was the period of Renaissance. So but that time also rules developed, because before this we can say that society was more into savagery and barbarism.
Yeah.
So what happened was that rules started to develop, and in uh, Napoleon, in his famous book, he wrote about equality, fraternity, and liberty, which became their motto now. And women were not actually included in that. It was equality for whom, fraternity for whom, liberty for whom. Women were not included.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
they say that gender is perpetuated in law through de jure and de facto. So de jure is from the law itself, the law being unequal for the women. Like in some countries, what happened was that it was the rule that women had to take permission before they start a business, and when they started a business also they had to be accompanied by a male member. It could be her 2-year-old child also. So a 2-year-old child had more authority than a grown woman.
Yeah.
A woman could not exercise power or authority over her own child without the permission of her husband. So these were actual rules. I mean, these not like social construct, actual rules. So this is de jure, and de facto
Yeah.
is when the rules are made equal, but they are still inequalities. So de facto is what we're experiencing now.
Yeah.
Everything is equal on paper,
Yeah.
but when you
It's
go
true.
for jobs, when you go for interviews, that stark inequality is very much visible. It's very
Yeah.
much visible. Why do we talk about the glass ceiling, and why do we talk about breaking the glass ceiling if everything was equal?
Yeah. Yeah. These
So
things just legitimize those things, the laws legitimize that we have a problem, and we just acknowledge it that okay, we're here to address it, and now we make a law, and it's not our responsibility that it will be completely gone from the system. No, that's not an majority. It never was. So yeah.
yeah, and
And
now,
yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
go
no,
on.
go ahead.
No, you go on. I would. You go on.
Okay, so I was saying that now when this feminist movements have come at large, some have, the radical ones, I feel they've gone too far, but I don't blame them, because the oppression has been for too long. So the explosion
Yeah.
will be loud now. You can't
Yeah.
you can't blame the movements. And what I wanted to say was that during this time also, during all these feminist movements, during all these gender studies, this inequality and the oppression somehow is increasing. It may not be in the economical sense, it may not be in the domestic sense, but somehow it is increasing. And I mean, I have no answer for that. Like, why is it still happening? Because we're quite educated now. Literacy rates are rising. We are becoming more educated. And like Katyani said in the beginning of this session itself, that men should be in the forefront,
Yeah.
because women talking in a room won't make a difference if the ones who are, you know, who have been perpetuating this patriarchy, if they don't
Yeah.
come in the forefront.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I also believe that religion has a lot to do with uh, this disbalance that we see in the society. Because if you study Christianity, even the creation of Eve was from Adam, and the Catholics being so reserved, and there are many laws which are created by man, are they are made uh, when they're taking they're thinking about what God would like. Even though I've never met God, they have absolutely no idea what God really wants. But they believe that because they have this feeling, because they have this what do I call it, intuition, that this is the right thing to do, they kept on following it. Okay. And how I really feel like that, how women would be able to fight them, if there's a majority of men who are telling you to behave this way, how women would fight them? Because it's not just about men not supporting women. It's also about women not supporting women. Women do not go along together. It's a problem, and it exists even today, even right now. Women do hesitate in stepping up for the other women. They they have this, I don't know, some sort of jealousy or what, that they just cannot come together. And it has
Exactly,
happened with
exactly.
me. It has happened with me, the moment I was interning somewhere. So there were a group of women, and we started talking, we started discussing things, and etc. And there comes a guy who obviously I would not name, and he says that he is the one who is capable of handling this team. And I was like, why did out of nowhere he comes on? He says this. Why is no one questioning him? So they will. The women in that group said that because he has this charisma, and he is good at speaking and all that, and he can carry this team very well. So that's why giving him this power. So how men got this power? I think women gave men this power. They did not fight at all. I mean, you cannot suppress someone if you give them the chance. If you stay quiet because someone told you that being quiet is a very powerful thing to do, and someone would just understand your signals that if you're not saying something, that they're not meant to do that. No, that does not happen. You need to speak up. No, that's the problem. In that That's what happened in that Me Too movement as well. So many women came and they shared their stories, and obviously people will doubt them, that for so many years you were quiet, you did not say anything. Now you're coming on, now you're saying it. Okay, very good that now you've found the courage, because it is really difficult to share something that has happened with you. But that creates a conundrum in other people's mind. Okay, that maybe it's just a stunt. Okay, maybe she just wants some publicity, maybe she wants something. That is the problem. They don't speak up. They wait for other people to, you know okay, speak for me. Always women have been like that. But speak for me, speak for me. Even Gandhi even said that, I brought women out of the house, now you're the one who has to carry it forward. Okay, so I really feel like that women need to really, really step up. And even today, uh, in our classrooms also, such topics, when we talk about, women are not even interested. They feel like, what's the point? This attitude that people have, this ignorant attitude, that, oh, this doesn't matter. This is not going to change anything. So I think this is the thing that we really need to work on. You know, yeah.
Yes, beautifully, like I said for the first time as well, very beautifully pointed and, phrased. And yes, I do agree with whatever you both pointed out. And yes, religion does play a very, very important role, because in India, especially, the
Yeah.
priority is religion, and people do act according to that. And that covering your major mindset, and that covering your major part, that is where we start. I will give you an example, because we are talking about that the system of karwa chauth, right? So
Yeah.
the women are fasting since the morning or the day before,
Hmm.
and they are waiting for the moon to come up, and there's a ritual like this. And
Yeah.
any ritual that you see is always based on how hard the woman is putting that effort for the man she has married. And not even a
Yeah.
father, for the man she has married,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And with no actual evidence that she is not going to get a divorce in future or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pointing out, because you spoke about religion, that has been that has been seen, that women are accepting that I have to take care and I need to make sure that my family is okay, or my husband is okay, or the male member is okay, which itself gives you, when your child sees that, your child learns that, and that
Yeah.
child follows the same legacy. And if you
Yeah.
don't do that, the men or the child, if the child is a boy, that boy will also expect that my wife should also do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is something which pinches a lot of women, and they do stand up
Mm-hmm.
for that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
always about the unity that you spoke about. That unless and until
Yeah.
everybody stands together and says no, and takes a pause on it, it's not
Yeah.
possible for one person
Yeah.
to shout out and say, I'm not going to do that. And also with
Exactly.
the points that Ashish had pointed out
Mm-hmm.
about the entire feminist movement and how all of these things came into an effect very late. That late is, I think, that is a kind of pushing things more away. We call ourselves modern, but we actually are not that modernized in terms of gender especially.
Yeah.
And to even think that this is an issue in today's time is the biggest drawback that we can have. We have to
Mm-hmm.
discuss something like
Yeah.
this on a platform. Even today, when we think that okay, we
Yeah.
are all westernized and modernized, I think that is a
Yeah.
setback or a drawback for us. So talking about feminism, taking
Mm-hmm.
it forward, we have a lot of arguments with a lot of females and males. We have our male friends and female friends, and we have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people defending what actually feminism is. You
Yeah.
have a lot of people arguing to tell you that, oh, so you are a feminist, and
Mm-hmm.
that is something, a kind of a thing that will startle you. So
Mm-hmm.
even though I know what feminism is, but it's good to hear out from the young people who are here today. So we'll start with what is feminism according to you, and what is it actually is, and why do you think that people are thinking that it is a kind of dominance that we are trying to take in the society. Katyani, will start with you.
Okay. So right off the bat, I would say that feminism is all about equality. It's not about putting women above men, which certainly it has become today. It's all about being women up, men down. That's misandrous. You're literally hating on men, which you shouldn't do. You should actually be equal. Okay, opportunity should be equal. Opportunity should be given on the basis of what your capabilities are, how competent you are, and how much you're ready to give in. All right. And when it comes to the feminist of today's time, especially, I think women do take uh, advantage of that. I'm not saying that in a bad way or something, but it's true. They do take advantage of that because they're both kinds of people. Okay, it's not just black and white. Okay, you cannot just put everything that way. So that's what I think feminism is, and people who think that feminism is just about women above men and totally neglecting the part of males in the society, that is absolutely wrong. Because if you're saying that only women suffer, you're wrong about that. Even globally, men commit more suicide than women. They are more susceptible to depression because they have a lot of financial pressure and they have to carry forward this domestic uh, life, because stereotypes, gender roles that we have created, and the hyper masculinity, what we also call toxic masculinity, that when men cannot cry, men cannot show emotions, men should always pursue women sexually, and all that. They should be stoic about everything. Okay, even if they're feeling something and they really want something, they cannot really show it, because if you do, then you're not a man. As simple as that. I mean, there is no wriggle room for anything. You're just not a man. You're not man enough. So that's what I think. And I would really like to hear what Ashish wants to say about this. Yeah. It's
Ashish,
always a
what are your
pleasure
views?
hearing you, man. Yeah.
So before I go into feminism, I just want to give a example of a story that I heard when Katyani,
Yeah.
she was talking about the woman not coming together and there being jealousy. So I came across this story, I think 2 3 years back, that a fisherman was carrying crabs in two baskets. Now I think this analogy has been used for a lot of things, but this is for men and women. So what happens is that one basket is covered and another basket is not covered. So while
Yeah.
he's going, a man asks him that why isn't the other basket covered? So he says simply that the one which is covered is the male crabs, and the one which is not covered are the female crabs. So he said that I don't understand. So he said that the female crabs, as soon as a crab is about to escape, the other crabs pull it down.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need a cover. So the moral of the story is that if women come together, anything can be possible. But there is that element of jealousy, or I don't know what is this called, because there have been instances where a woman who is suffering from domestic violence, and if other women from the village, they go to defend her, she will say that, why are you interfering in my family matters? This is
Exactly.
my husband.
Yeah.
So this happens,
Yeah.
and I don't know why. I mean, if you just come together, if they really do come together, why isn't it possible? It's very much possible.
Yeah.
And now when we talk about feminism has taken a very, very wrong turn, I think, in the modern times, because most people don't know what feminism is.
Yeah.
You go ask someone that, are you a feminist? A person who's saying that I am a feminist don't really know what a feminist is.
Absolutely.
Suppose
Yeah.
so. First we need to this thing of education. A lot of governments and a lot of countries have been talking about introducing gender studies at a very early level, maybe at the level of kindergarten, where it's not taught about inequality or equality. It's just the basic things about which constructed gender, so that
Yeah.
from an early age they can, they don't have this disparity in their mind. So first, I think that the level of education regarding gender has to be increased. And for me, I consider myself a feminist because I know what it means.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
and one more thing is that above feminism, I think that the question here is about equity. Now, if I ask you this question, women have been exploited, suppressed, treated like an object for maybe thousands of years. If you give them an equal platform now with men, who do you think will win? Someone who has been already oppressed for thousands of years. And now you say, we give you an equal platform. The starting line is here. You have an equal start. Who do you think will win? So I think the question here is about equity. Before you come to equality, you need to level up the playing ground. You cannot
Yeah.
expect someone, like now in India also, you're saying that we are giving equality, and not in terms, I'm talking in terms of caste. So a
Yeah.
Dalit boy, he is the first generation to be educated, and his classmate is an upper caste who has generational resources. He may be the 10th generation to be getting educated,
Yeah.
and in class the Dalit boy may be smarter, he might be more intelligent, but because of this disparity in resources, the upper caste boy will go ahead. And this is the same thing which is happening in this I in this how do this modern lingo, this urban lingo, that we say that
Yeah.
the gender race. You cannot expect that, women to come together and suddenly, come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
First you have to level up the ground at the grassroots level.
Yeah.
In cities and towns, that level is starting, slowly, that bridges gap, that gap, you know
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but in the grassroots level, that disparity is very, very much evident. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when in my third year, I went to do a survey in the bordering villages in Bangladesh, in Assam, and in Meghalaya. So I went to study the migration problem and illegal migration and people coming and settling there illegally. But I found something else also. I've seen that when men come back home from work, they don't do a single activity. They come, they go to the bed, even for a cup of tea, they will say, chai leke aao. Even for a
Yeah.
glass of water, also they will.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you can get a glass of water by yourself. Even your wife has been working the entire day. It just
Yeah.
because you're working outside doesn't mean your work is more important than hers. And that's why I
Yeah.
think the third wave of feminism, where Esther Bosrup, she wrote that the domestic activity has to also be included in the GDP. Because what
Yeah.
about all the mothers and all the women who are working at home entire day without pay, without any recognition? I feel that is a very, very strong reason for the existing disparity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, Ashish.
Absolutely.
Um, completely agreed the points that you had put. Even when you were talking about Bostrap, that she wanted the economic development of women to be done first if we wanted to, if she wanted women to grow. And also, very beautifully put, very beautifully phrased. And yes, I think that the concept, whoever understands the concept of feminism, will agree and instantly say, yes, that I'm a feminist. And it's not
Yeah.
more of a, trying to suppress men. So I think we all are clear on that fact. And yes, education does play a very, very important role. And all of these gender stereotypes have been with us while we were growing. So, like Oshish said about socialization, right? So, from our homes to our school and our work areas, everywhere we see this gender disparity. Even in schools, you were not allowed to sit with a guy. The girl was not allowed to sit with the guy, or the guy was not allowed to sit with the girl. So you're already creating a difference between the child, and you make them understand that
Yeah.
it's not good to sit with a guy, with no
Yeah.
logical reasoning behind it. You can't be friends
Yeah.
with the guy. And
Yeah.
years later, you just get a guy for arranged marriage, and you ask that girl to marry that guy and live forever without even knowing that person. So I think
Yeah.
all of these
Yeah.
things do pile up on you, and somebody who makes or carves that way gets out of it. But the women who are unable to raise their voice or stand for themselves are the ones which do not ever. So yes. And also, talking about gender, whenever we talk, or whenever we say gender difference or disparity, we
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that comes to our mind is women. Although in gender we have
Yeah.
males, transgenders,
Gender issue
and
is about women. Yeah.
yes. So
It's
whenever, even if we
Yeah,
have a topic, generic topic, we always start speaking about women, because
women.
that is one thing that we have been seeing. And we have been seeing how that particular group is being suppressed. So
Yeah.
transgenders, I think, or the other genders are way behind, because even right now the women haven't got that um, right or opportunity that we jump on to the next one. And like
Yeah.
Ashish said, that the grassroots level has to be strong before giving the equality to all. So while we are talking about transgenders and the other genders, we have, I have this example that when I was in school, any guy who was a bit feminine, or maybe he was interested in feminine stuffs, which is absolutely normal to be, the other friends used to make fun of that guy. And yes, we were quite young for at that time to understand that we have other genders as well. And we used to make fun of it, and we used to take it in a fun element, that okay, this guy is this, which is
Yeah.
wrong, initially. So let's have a discussion. Let's talk about what you feel that, why should we talk about the other genders in a starting stage? Why should that be taught when you are younger? Ashish, we'll start with you.
yeah. So the reason that we need to start at a very young age is to normalize this thing. And as to,
Yeah.
I read a book a few days back. I mean, I It was a trilogy. The Shiva trilogy, and over there it has been repeated over and over again that masculinity and femininity, it's like two sides of a coin. So
Yeah.
that statement really struck me. I was like, if these things could be normalized at a very young age, this won't, because if when a tree is growing and you bend it in a certain way, it grows in that way, right? And when a tree grows up and you try to bend it, what happens? The tree
It
breaks.
is. Yeah.
So it has to happen when your mind is flexible, when your mind is impressionable. That you talk about gender, you talk about, and not only gender with men and women, you have to talk about the other genders as well. You have to normalize, because even today, even my friends, and I understand. See, I am studying all these things. That's why I have this open mind now. But my friends who are not studying the gender studies, feminism, women studies, they, they're still very apprehensive about when somebody says, oh, she's a feminist, and they're like, they have this disdain and scorn on their face.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not aware of it, and because of the recent trends, the red stocking movement in New York and the Nazi feminism, which are, absolutely extreme, and these,
Yeah.
the first wave, the second wave, it didn't get much publicity, which was very much progressive. But now these movements, because of social media, they're getting, a lot of viewers, and people are getting a
Yeah.
very wrong idea about all these things now.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
even if you ask someone, they're scared. And rightly, like Anjali said, whenever we talk about gender, the only thing which comes to anybody's mind is woman. The first thing that comes to your mind is woman. So that shouldn't be the case, because lesbians, gays, transgenders, bisexuals, they
Asexual.
you, we have to understand their position as well, because
Yeah.
it wasn't, maybe 30 years, before 30 years they had to suppress their feelings, they had to suppress who they were.
Yeah.
Like Alan Turing, he was the father of the modern computer. He was the one who cracked the enigma. So
Oh,
such
I
a
know
such a
him.
brilliant man, and he was a gay himself, but at that time it was, it was a crime. It meant that you'd either go to jail, receive psychological treatments, or you had to be on neurological medication, which would really hamper yourself. And
Yeah.
such a brilliant man, you know
Yeah.
many believe that he was the reason that the British, they won against the German forces, because
Yeah.
without cracking enigma, it would have been very difficult. So such a brilliant man, but he was made
Yeah.
to take all these neurological medicines, and it completely ruined him. So now that finally these other genders also, they are getting a voice, we must support it, and I feel that it is us who should support it the most. India being the
Yeah.
youngest, one of the youngest countries, I mean,
Yeah.
we are going through this demographic dividend, and we are, and by 2030 will be one of the youngest countries, with with the independent population completely overtaking the dependent population. So if we begin right now, and this webinar also, platforms like these, recently I attended a session by Shagarika Ghosh. Why am I a liberal? She launched a book recently,
Yeah.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
she said that we need to have these, instead of large forums where, people they're made to come because they need an audience. We need to have these micro forums where people who are actually interested, people who actually want to make a difference, they come
Yeah.
and contribute. I feel the difference, and I feel it starts from here.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Ashish. You know,
And to come to your point, Anjali, that
yes, Katyani.
if we see a guy who's being feminine and we just call him, okay, he's gay, that also lack of vocabulary because people don't know about metrosexuality. You can be
Yes.
metrosexual and you can, have interest in women, but you can dress up as a, women. You can have a style like that. Like Ranveer Singh, he's a metrosexual. You know, he likes to dress up in a way which is loud, I can say, but that does not mean that he's a bisexual one.
Absolutely.
He's married. Okay, so that's another thing, and I think I'll end this by saying that we need a cultural shift, and we are part of the solution. I mean, not just teaching the young children or the young people. I think we also need to tell older people, because they are the ones who really need to change their perspective on things. And they're also rigid. They won't understand you so easily. They, how will
Absolutely.
they? Because they've spent their entire lives in believing something that they even don't know why they believe it. You ask
Absolutely.
your any older guy and just ask them, why do you follow this? Just because people do it, because I'm
Yeah.
following a crowd. Okay, that's a problem. That's something that we really need to change. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, Katyani. And, I was, we have this community, a Sikh community, and we were seeing that while I was studying personally about the genders, I had a project that I had to make on transgenders without realizing that there are 72 more genders that has to be discovered and been spoken about. Although I had made that entire thesis on transgenders, and I was surprised to see that we have only reached to limited to five genders, actually seven. Okay, that is male, female, transgenders, bisexual, and basically the LGBTQA community. And the other 65 genders, we don't even talk about it. We don't even, you know, we don't even discuss about it, which itself is a lack of education, that we have been talking about since the beginning. A person
Yeah.
who is entering, or person who is watching social media and studying from here and there, if that person is not getting the right information, I think that we are already lacking our part where we educate people. Because
Yeah.
according to our society, education is more of what you study in schools and colleges and what you do your job. And I don't think that is what education is. Education is, being knowledgeable, knowing things around you, and being aware that about the things that is happening. Everybody cannot have the equal
Yeah.
knowledge, but yes, at least you can gain it. It's like a sea. It's a never ending
Yeah.
sea that you can just go on and on and on of it. So yes,
Anjali,
yes, yes, Ashish.
sorry to disturb you,
No, no,
but I
absolutely.
just no, no. I just wanted to say that our country, or maybe the modern society, it has become literate, but it has yet to become educated.
Educated.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a difference. There's a difference between
yes.
educated and being
And
literate.
being literate. Exactly.
Yeah, and like the genome, you have many genetic combinations and variations. You know, also in sexual orientations, you have many variations. You can be demisexual and a lesbian, or you can
Yes.
be you can be gender fluid. Okay, you can be pansexual. You can be anything that you want.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yes, Ashish, you're absolutely right. You pointed it out correctly that people are literate, but they are not educated enough to understand and observe the kind of clarity we need on things. And because we have to conclude this, I would just like to add two more things so that we don't, you know, we do not incomplete the discussion. One is about the gender stereotypes that we have in our workplace,
yeah,
and the other that I spoke about is the LGBTQ community that we have. And this gender disparity is not just for women, but also the third gender that we quote, and we include the
yeah,
other 72 genders in that. So I think that I was talking to somebody about this, and that person pointed out about the public unit, public toilets. We do not have public toilets here. We have for men and women, and we don't just
yeah,
include the third gender, that we should have a public toilet for them as well. So I
yeah,
think this entire discussion was a fruitful discussion because we got to talk about the historical parts of how this word gender actually was formed, and we got to talk about the present. Although because of the time constraint, we have to conclude the event. All if I would have been even if I would have been allowed, I would have taken this for a 4 or 5 hours kind of an event. And because we have a lot to talk, we are the youth and we have so much inside us that we just need a platform to speak on. And I think platforms like these, like Oshesh also mentioned, that platforms
Yeah.
like these can actually help you get you a bit, give you a bit of knowledge, give a bit of ideas of what is happening around you. So yes, before we conclude the session, let's have your concluding remarks of what you think that the youth should do, or the people who are watching this should do, and what are your message for the audience that are watching today. We'll start with Katyani.
I'll be just plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to even think about future when we are on the brink of this anthropocene, actually, the climate change that we are facing right now. Uh, to even think about future that we'll somehow have gender equality in 202 years by the gender gap report. They predicted that in 202 years we'll have gender equality. Who has seen those 202 years? No idea about
No
it.
idea.
It's just one of those numbers that you just throw and you just expect that things will happen like that. Even for the gender, sorry, the washroom for the third gender. Okay, it's not that easy. Okay, things take time. Okay, because for that to happen, people also need to understand, they need to really internalize it and comprehend that why is this happening, and they need to question, introspect whatever they have had believed their entire lives. So yes, I mean, if you have some confusion, if you really want to know about something, I would suggest that go for the right sources. Don't just randomly Google about anything, because if you Google that females are bad, Google will give you results that will say that females are bad. Okay? Ask people who have some sort of degree in it, who specialize in it. That would really help. And try to empathize, because I don't want your sympathy. I don't want you to sympathize with me because I have been oppressed for my since the beginning of time. No, I want you to empathize. I want you to really understand what we go through, and not just females, but also males and the other genders as well. Just, just that, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katyani. It was a beautiful conclusion given by you. Ashish, your concluding remarks.
Okay, so I would like to conclude with two quotes and the last two lines of a very famous poem. So the first quote is for the boys who are listening to this. Charity begins at home. So
Yeah.
please respect women, and I feel mutual respect can go a long way. And for the all the women watching this, and for all the women out there, I would like to say that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So take that single step, that 1,000 miles also will come. And for the other genders, all the 72 genders, this these two last two lines is from a poem called Invictus. And Nelson Mandela, when he was in prison for 25 years, he, this was a source of inspiration for him. And in these two last lines, what is written is that I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. So do not worry about what society thinks about you. You have to do what is right for yourself. So, with that, I would like to end this. Thank you. Thank you for having
Thank
me here.
Thank you so much, Katyani and Ashish, for joining us today. I would like to thank both of you from on behalf of Empower People for giving us your time, for giving us your precious time, your busy time actually, because in this moment of time, everybody is busy in doing something or the other, and it is a weekday. So I understand for you to take out some time for us, and also for sharing your views. It was really important, especially for the audience that are watching you today, for you guys sharing your perspective, your thoughts, and what is right. So yeah, thank you so much once again. Thank you to the audience who's watching this session right now. I believe that we all had a very beautiful and fruitful conversation and discussion today. We will have more discussion on this next time, and we'll try to cover more things about it. So thank you so much once again for being here, and everybody have a safe and good night. Thank you so much.